good,
right,
then now everything else goes through that filter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know that in my encounters that I feel super comfortable complimenting. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm running this through multiple things in my mind, right? Like I'm running it through times that I've met your friends or things like that, but also like encounters with patients, and I don't always lead with a compliment.
You're thinking too big.
Okay.
The compliment doesn't have to be like, "Wow, you've got beautiful eyes." Okay, I mean it could be just something like
something really odd.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
I love your skin.
Your breath is amazing. No,
you have really moist skin. What?
It could be something just like, "Oh, I love those shoes.
Yeah,
those are
great shoes. Yeah, where'd you get those?
Yeah, those
okay.
are cool."
That's fair. And I usually try to do something. I think as a therapist, we're engaging, right? So like that rapport is something we do quickly.
Right. And as a funny anecdote, so when we did our fantasy draft,
yeah,
and so one of your friends, Eddie,
yeah, you guys are gonna go golf.
Yeah, which I've met him before, but
yeah.
we don't know each other that well,
right.
But when I've grown the beard since the last time I saw Eddie.
Oh yeah.
And so when we got there, and I sit down next to him, he's like, "Wow," he's like, "That beard looks great. It's coming in really well." And ever since that moment, it's like,
I like Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie has good taste.
Every pick he had on his team, I was like, "That's a great pick, Eddie."
I agree. I think there's a line of reasoning there that I want to jump on. So for me, I don't know that I always lead with compliments, but I do want to put the other person at ease. And I think that's also the therapist in me, right? Is that when I first meet somebody, I realize they're walking into my office. It's intimidating. They're obviously going through a hard time. They're not coming to see me because they're on a winning streak. They're coming to see me because there's a problem. And so one of the first things I usually do as a therapist is try to put people at ease, and that's usually just small talking and bringing up things to kind of get them out of their own head. And I'm very cognizant of my own presentation, right? Mm-hmm. Lots of smiling. I'm very aware of my face, like, raising eyebrows and being interested. Lots of eye contact, but also like mirroring some of them, right? Like I'm paying attention to the emotions that they have, and this is called personality mirroring. Maybe you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. But you notice in the other person what they're expressing, and you reflect as fast as you kind of can in a natural way that same sort of emotion. So if they're telling a story and they're kind of getting angry, you're kind of like, leaning in and like furrowing the brow and kind of like, yeah, no, I get it, focused, right? But if they're like, kind of like, yeah, this is great, oh, I love being here, Buffalo Wild Wings is a lot of fun, last time I was here for, my buddy's birthday, we had a great time, and then you're reflecting that, right? And so I intentionally do that. It's something I now do by second nature, which I've noticed helps me join with people. It just helps them go, okay, Jim gets it, right? And so whenever I come into a first encounter with somebody, my hope is that when they walk away, if somebody were to ask them, do you feel like Jim got you? Do you feel like he's the kind of person that understands you? My hope is that they go, yeah, no, Jim's on the level. Jim, yeah, I could see myself hanging out with Jim because he, seems to dial in. I definitely felt like he was with me and we were hanging out. This is good. So I guess that's my, advice. Besides, I like your idea of complimenting mm-hmm. too. Just, it's kind of creepy. So there's that.
There's nothing creepy about it.
Super creepy. Super creepy.
It's normal to compliment people.
It's not,
just because
Nick.
You don't do it.
You get to the football game, you look at
my
my wife, and you're like, your beard looks so good, and she's just very hurt, and like, we were talking about it the whole time afterward, and she was like, God, I mean, I'm so insecure about it. And I was like, baby, your beard is beautiful, okay? You don't let anybody take that away from you.
It's not my fault if people can't take a compliment.
That's right. That's the real problem here, is that she's compliment averse. Well, very good. And good research, guys. So just keep that in mind, that your encounters with other people, no matter if it's a first impression or multiple encounters, if you walk away and feel really self-critical, you're just sure that they didn't like you, the science now says you are overthinking it. You are overcritical of yourself. And the data shows us that most people enjoy conversation partners and that they do not take away negative feedback from you and have a negative perception. And then, there's some tips in there about how you bring your best self to that encounter and be complimenting, be warm, be affable, and try to reflect, try to understand the other person, and I just recommend really dialing into them. I hate to see people pulling out their phones and looking down during a conversation, and glancing away. I like to see that kind of stuff go away, especially in a first encounter, really get to know them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss friends with benefits moving into a relationship. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Hello, Jim and Nick, and hello, TheraPals. Today's episode of Pod Therapy is sponsored by me, Smitty Scoop. Although Smitty Scoop is just my ice cream social name. Nick and Jim, you should probably call me Smitty TheraPal. I don't know much about mental health and don't have much to offer there. That is why I enjoy listening to Pod Therapy. If you're a new listener to Pod Therapy, I'd like to take this opportunity to recommend some of my favorite episodes from the back catalog. Episode 32, there's a great discussion of gaslighting. Spoiler alert, it is an overused pop culture media term that has become essentially meaningless, much like verbally abusive. Episode 23, there's an excellent discussion about opioids and their pernicious effects. It was so well done, I had my 11-year-old daughter listen to it, because I figured she's more likely to take advice from a stranger than she is from her own father. Also, if you haven't listened to episode 474 of Ice Cream Social, where the guests are none other than Jim and Nick, I recommend that to you as well. I look forward to seeing as many TheraPals as I can at the sushi and sake therapy session during Scoop Fest. Nick and Jim, this is your subtle hint to finalize the date and time. It looks like Wednesday dinner or Thursday lunch are the best opportunities for an opening on the Scoop Fest calendar. That's all from Smitty, the president of your Virginia fan club.
Thanks, Smitty. If you'd like to join the party and help make the show possible and tap into the special content for patrons only, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is from somebody who's in an open relationship and wants a friend with benefits. Should I get a friend with benefits to meet my sexual needs when my girlfriend doesn't? Hello, doctors, and salt pork to you both.
Salt pork?
Salt pork. I'm a huge fan of the show and listen every week. It's the highlight of my day. Now on to my problem. My girlfriend and I have been together almost a year. In the beginning, we were just friends with benefits, but that turned into a relationship 2 months later, with her insisting it be an open relationship. She had another friend with benefits that she did not want to stop seeing, and I'm okay with that. In the beginning, she and I could not keep our hands off of each other. We had sex almost every time we saw each other. Occasionally, her other friend with benefits would come over to her house and they would sleep together and everything was going fine. Eventually, she told her friend with benefits that she didn't want to sleep with him anymore because she lost her desire. And she told me that this was because he didn't understand her sexual needs the way I did, and I could make her feel better than he could. I feel like we need to pause here and marvel at how awesome this must have sounded to hear in real life, because it is so awesome.
Yes.
Very true.
Let's just end it there.
Yeah.
Let's end on a high note.
It ends on a high note.
You.
There is no
Thank
problem.
You.
Congratulations. All right, so here's the rest of the letter. It was around this time, however, that we started to have sex less frequently. We used to do it at least once a week or so, and that dwindled to around once or twice a month. I've tried talking to her about it, but she always has excuses about not having time or something or other. I love her, and she loves me too, but I have to get my needs met as well. Since this is an open relationship officially, I'm wondering if I should maybe branch out and find another friend with benefits to satisfy those needs. I don't really want to find another sexual partner. I'd much rather rekindle the magic that we once had. But I want my needs met, and I don't want to leave my girlfriend. Any advice you guys can offer would be appreciated, and thanks for your time. Effing you both in your beautiful faces. Anonymous Scoop.
Thank you, Anonymous. Well, thank you, too. This is very nice to hear. I'm glad that we are the highlight of your day.
Yeah. Also, seek treatment immediately. Just remember the suicide hotline. It's going to get better.
Right. Yeah, this is... thank you for sending this in. This is a really good question. I guess as I'm kind of looking at this, the thing that I think we just have to start with is the fact that fundamentally this relationship has changed.
Right.
It has changed dramatically from where it started. There's going to be complications in that. From from her perspective, it went from, friends with benefits to now this is a relationship. So it was something that was purely sexual and just let's have fun, so on and so forth. And now it's a whole different component. I mean, it's apples and oranges.
Right.
Different. And so, yeah, I think it's difficult, but I think expectations have to be adjusted appropriately.
I think that makes sense. And, so whenever I read this, Nick, I was like, okay, I think I have some good feedback. But then I thought to a guest that we've had on our show, on the episode about the Las Vegas orgy, we brought in the curator of the Erotic Heritage Museum, Dr. Victoria Hartley, or Hartman, rather, Dr. Victoria Hartman. And she is a sexologist and just very, very intelligent when it comes to sexual relationships and sexual interplay. So I actually ended up writing her and saying,
Good.
hey, I took the name away from the email and stuff, but I said, hey, do you have any feedback? And she did. She wrote back with a couple of notes. And so she said, hey, listen, regardless of how two people are, those hormones wear off, right, over time.
Right.
And so that sexual attraction to each other is going to diminish a little, and she said especially in women. And so she cited some different studies that kind of demonstrated that. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. A lot of us tend to interpret it as rejection or a loss of libido or appetite entirely, and it could be the settling into the relationship. Mm-hmm. So this could really be the true normal, and before that it was sort of the fireworks.
Right.
She also pointed out, and I thought this was a really good note, she said he needs to check first to make sure they still have a friend with benefits relationship, because they may have fallen into monogamy and they haven't renegotiated. So when he says, hey, officially we started on this, yes, but you've never cashed that coupon, right? And so It's time to come back and make sure it hasn't expired. Make sure it's still valid. She has ended her last friend with benefit. You are technically in a monogamous thing.
So
right
there
now.
could have been possibly kind of an underlying agreement,
right?
When she ended her friends with benefits
that
relationship,
it's all over.
Almost, because we do that all the time in relationships where we
assume
do something and we assume that this is a contractual agreement and we both understand this, right? But we never talk about it.
Oh, that happens all the time. Hey, I don't feel like going out Saturday. Okay. But does that mean that I'm not going out Saturday?
Yeah.
Was that a declaration, or are you just letting me know the same way you let me know I think I'm in the mood for iced tea? That has no bearing on me. But we all know that's not how it works, right? In relationships, when one person sort of declares, I don't want anybody else but you, they could have an undertone of and that's our new normal, right?
And it's what you want too, right?
Exactly, whether you like it or not. So that was a good note by her. She also pointed out that, not all humans are monogamous. There is that ability to be, polyamorous. But she also pointed out not all humans are polyamorous, and so she kind of compared it to bonobos and chimpanzees and how we go through phases, where we might want to be one or the other. And so, that's both are legitimate choices. And so she encouraged him to sort of check that out. And lastly, she said, hey, but listen, at the end of the day, she's kind of got to be a part of, 100% of her 50% of the relationship. And if you don't feel that your needs are being met, you need to have a thorough and realistic conversation about that and let her be a part of the solution. And, if you want to talk about friends with benefits, bring that to her. Try to rekindle it. It could be as simple as sort of reigniting the relationship and trying to bring that back. But, Nick, I think that brings, her notes there. Thank you, Dr. Hartman. That was awesome. But also, I think her last point there really, I think, introduces a new part of the conversation, which is we can kind of get distracted on this and think, man, this question's all about friends with benefits and whether that's okay or not okay. If you guys have negotiated this into a consensual agreement, I have no problem, and I have no further real commentary about whether that's good or bad. I don't care. It's good for you, right? That's what's working for you guys. Mm-hmm. But I think her last note brings another question to the conversation, which is, how do we rekindle? Even polyamorous relationships that have really exciting sex lives, they're writing in and saying, hey, that doesn't last forever. And Dr. Hartman says, yeah, because hormones. It doesn't. So how do you rekindle that?
Yeah, so I could see this being, like you said, kind of a bigger issue in that really I think it kind of comes back down to communication. And are we communicating exactly what we want to communicate? Because, our anonymous listener could go back and say, I've been thinking about this, friends with benefits thing, and I'd like to continue to pursue that. Are you okay with that? How do you feel about it? Mm-hmm. When in reality, that's not the issue.
Right.
Right? So he could easily bring this up and start going down that road without really communicating what the true issue is, which is our relationship has changed, and that bothers me.
Right.
I feel like our relationship